Hey guys, have you ever wanted to improve your English while exploring the wonders of ancient worlds? What if learning vocabulary and listening skills could feel like time travel? Welcome to English Insight, the channel where English learning meets epic history. In this video, you will boost your English naturally as we uncover fascinating moments from the past, from ancient empires and legendary leaders to forgotten cultures and everyday life long ago. As we explore, you will hear real English pronunciation, useful phrases, and easy-to-understand explanations, all designed to help you improve your language skills while keeping you entertained. So whether you are studying at home, commuting, or relaxing before bed, let your mind travel back in time, and let your English grow along the way. Let's begin the journey. The Man Who Built a School with His Salary, story from Bangladesh. In a small, bustling town in Bangladesh, the streets are alive with the sound of bicycle bells, the chatter of market vendors, and the hum of rickshaw wheels rolling over the uneven road. Among these daily rhythms is a man whose life may look ordinary at first glance. His days are spent peddling passengers from one end of the town to the other, earning a modest fare with every ride. His name is Abdul Karim. He is not wealthy. He has never owned land. He has no formal title, no high position in business or politics. And yet, through quiet determination and selfless vision, he has done something extraordinary. He has built a free school for children who might otherwise never have stepped inside a classroom. It is a story that begins not with riches or influence, but with a deep awareness of what it means to go without. Abdul Karim grew up in a poor family. He knew the taste of hunger and the ache of wanting an education he could not afford. As a young boy, he had to leave school to help earn money for his family. The dream of learning did not leave him. It became a constant presence in his heart, a reminder that education is not simply about books and lessons, but about possibility, dignity, and choice. He promised himself that one day, if he could, he would give other children the chance he never had. Years later, that promise turned into action. With the little money he earned each month from driving his rickshaw, Abdul Karim began setting aside a portion, not for personal comfort, but for something bigger. It was a slow process. The cost of rent, food, and clothing often threatened to swallow the small savings. But he kept going, believing that even small steps forward could one day lead to something meaningful. And they did. Piece by piece, month by month, he gathered enough to rent a small room, buy a few benches, and gather donated books. In that modest space, his dream took its first breath, a free school for the children of his community. In this lesson, we will explore his story through the lenses of education, generosity, and community, three powerful themes that shape both his life and our vocabulary learning. The language of education, words like curriculum, literacy, enrollment, and scholarship, will help us describe the school he built, the lessons he offered, and the transformation that learning brought to his students. The language of generosity, terms like selflessness, philanthropy, charitable act, and giving spirit, will help us capture the heart of his sacrifice and his choice to use his hard-earned wages for others. And the language of community, expressions like shared responsibility, local involvement, neighborhood initiative, and collective benefit will help us see how his efforts rippled outward, inspiring others to join in and support the school, Abdul. Karim's journey is not just about one man and one school, it's about the ripple effect of kindness. His decision to invest in education did not stop with the first classroom. Parents began volunteering, neighbors helped with repairs, and older students tutored the younger ones. A sense of pride grew in the community, not just for the school, but for the belief that even without large donations or government funding, they could change their own future. As you listen to this story, think about the words that describe what he did and why it matters. Language is a bridge between the facts of the story and the feelings it inspires. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to talk about education, generosity, and community in English, not just as abstract ideas, but as living realities, grounded in the choices of a man who believed that even a modest income could build something lasting. This is not a tale of sudden wealth or overnight success. It is a story of persistence, of giving without expectation of return, and of the quiet belief that investing in children is investing in the future. It is a reminder that no matter how limited your resources, you can still choose how to use them, and that choice can change everything. So let's begin with the sound of a rickshaw bell ringing in the morning air and a man pedaling toward a dream that is bigger than himself. This is the story of Abdul Karim, the man who built a school with his salary. The man who built a school with his salary. Story from Bangladesh. Education is often described as the key to opportunity, the foundation for building a better future. In Bangladesh, as in many parts of the world, that key is not always within reach for every child. For families struggling to put food on the table, paying for school uniforms, textbooks, or even a small enrollment fee can feel impossible. Many children drop out before they have learned to read fluently or add numbers confidently. Others never enter a classroom at all. Abdul Karim understood this reality on a personal level. He had lived it, and that is why his vision for a free school was not simply about teaching lessons. It was about breaking a cycle. He knew that without education, children grow up with fewer opportunities, often trapped in the same poverty that held their parents. With education, they have a chance to find stable work, make informed choices, and contribute positively to their communities. When he first opened the school, the resources were minimal. The classroom was a rented room with bare walls, a few wooden benches, and a chalkboard that had seen better days. There were no computers, no fancy projectors, no shelves full of colorful books. But there was something far more important, a teacher who believed in the potential of every child who walked through the door. Karim began by focusing on the basics: reading, writing, and arithmetic. In English, we call these the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic, a phrase often used to describe the core skills that form the foundation of education. Many of his students had never held a pencil properly before. Some did not know how to write their names. The first lessons were slow and patient, filled with repetition and encouragement. Karim understood that learning is a process and that confidence grows alongside skill. He quickly realized that teaching in a low-income community required flexibility. Some children could not attend every day because they helped their parents with work, selling goods in the market, caring for younger siblings, or laboring in the fields. Instead of punishing absences, Karim adapted the school schedule to fit the reality of his students' lives. He offered lessons in the early morning and late afternoon so children could attend around their other responsibilities. As the school grew, so did the variety of subjects taught. In addition to Bengali language and mathematics, students learned about science, history, and geography. Karim placed special emphasis on English, knowing that in Bangladesh, English proficiency can open doors to better jobs and higher education. For many of his students, English was a completely new language. They started with simple vocabulary, numbers, colors, common greetings, and gradually built up to full sentences, reading short stories, and even writing basic essays. The curriculum also included life skills, knowledge that students could use outside the classroom. They learned about hygiene, nutrition, and environmental care. They discussed social values such as honesty, cooperation, and respect for others. For older students, Karim organized workshops on practical topics like basic accounting, small business, planning, and computer literacy. Once the school was able to borrow a few old laptops from a local NGO. One of the most important parts of education in Karim's school was the personal connection between teacher and student. He took time to learn about each child's situation, their home life, their challenges, and their dreams. For many children, This was the first time an adult had shown such interest in their future. It built trust, which in turn built motivation. Karim also involved the students in maintaining the school itself. They helped clean the classroom, arrange the benches, and take care of shared materials. This taught responsibility and respect for shared spaces, lessons that are just as important as academic subjects. Despite the school's simplicity, its impact was profound. Children who had once been on the streets or working in fields were now reading books, solving math problems, and talking about what they wanted to be when they grew up. Some dreamed of becoming doctors or engineers, others wanted to be teachers, inspired by Karim himself. Over the years, the school's success became evident in the community. Former students passed exams that allowed them to continue to secondary school, something no one in their family had done before. A few even earned scholarships to college. These achievements not only changed the lives of individual students, but also shifted the way the community thought about education. Parents who had once been skeptical about sending their children to school began to see the value and encourage attendance. Karim's approach to education can be described with several important English terms: inclusive learning, welcoming, all students regardless of background; accessible education, making sure cost is not a barrier; holistic development, focusing on both academic skills and personal growth; community-based learning, involving local people in the teaching and support process. Each of these concepts became part of the school's identity. Lessons were not just about passing exams. They were about preparing students to participate fully in society. Even as the school grew, Karim never forgot the importance of keeping education free. He refused offers from private sponsors who wanted to introduce fees in exchange for upgrading facilities. He believed that the moment money became a barrier, the school would lose its heart and purpose. In the English language, we often say, knowledge is power. For Karim, knowledge was not only power, it was freedom. Freedom from illiteracy, from ignorance, from the feeling that life's possibilities are closed off. Every letter a child learned to write, every number they learned to add, was a small step toward that freedom. Generosity. Generosity is often measured in coins, notes, and donations, but the deepest form of generosity is not about giving what is extra. It is about giving what you cannot easily spare. Abdul Karim's generosity was exactly that. He was a man of modest means, earning just enough to cover his own basic needs. And yet, he chose to share his income, his time, and his energy in a way that would change hundreds of lives. To understand the depth of Karim's generosity, we have to understand his daily life. His rickshaw was not just a vehicle, it was his livelihood. Each day began before sunrise. As the first light of morning spilled across the streets, Karim would set out, pedaling through the quiet lanes, heading toward busier parts of town. Some days he transported market vendors carrying baskets of vegetables. Other days, school children on their way to their own classes, business people rushing to offices, or elderly passengers who needed a gentle and careful ride. His earnings depended on the weather, the day's demand, and his physical stamina. A flat tire, a sudden downpour, or an illness could mean no income for the day. And yet, no matter how uncertain the future seemed, Karim set aside part of his earnings for the school. He often skipped small personal luxuries: tea at a roadside stall, a better pair of shoes, an extra serving of rice, so that those few coins could go toward buying chalk, exercise books, or repairing a broken bench. In English, there are several words we use to describe such acts: selflessness, putting the needs of others before your own; altruism, giving without expecting anything in return; philanthropy, the act of promoting the welfare of others, especially through charitable acts; sacrifice, giving up something valuable for the sake of others. Karim embodied all of these. He did not build the school to gain fame or recognition. In fact, for the first few years, Few people outside his neighborhood even knew it existed. His reward came from seeing children with open books instead of empty hands, from hearing them recite lessons instead of begging for coins. One of the most striking aspects of his generosity was its consistency. Many people are inspired to give in moments of crisis, after a flood, a fire, or a public appeal. But Karim's giving was not a one-time gesture. It was a habit woven into the fabric of his life. Day after day, week after week, year after year, he chose to give. Generosity in his case was not only about money. It was also about time and effort. After a long day of pedaling his rickshaw, Karim would often go to the school in the evening, sometimes to teach, sometimes to repair a leaky roof, sometimes to sit with a struggling student. He believed that showing up mattered just as much as providing materials. His example began to inspire others. A tailor in the neighborhood offered to sew school uniforms for free. A grocer began donating a small bag of rice each month so the school could provide lunch to the hungriest students. A local carpenter built a sturdy door without charging for his labor. None of these people were rich, but generosity is not measured by the size of the gift. It is measured by the willingness to give. In English, we have the phrase, paying it forward. It means doing something kind for someone without expecting repayment, in the hope that they will one day do the same for others. Karim's life was a living example of this. By investing in children's education, he was planting seeds of generosity in their hearts. Many of his former students, once grown, returned to help the school, teaching part-time, donating books, or mentoring younger pupils. Karim's generosity also challenged common assumptions. In many societies, we expect the wealthy to be the ones funding schools, hospitals, and charities. But here was a man who owned no property, had no savings account, and yet built a school from his own pocket. His story shows that generosity is not about how much you have. It is about what you do with what you have. The vocabulary of generosity in English is rich and varied, and Karim's actions bring many of these words to life. Benevolence, the desire to do good for others. Compassion, a deep awareness of the suffering of others and the wish to relieve it. Kindness, the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. Charity, voluntary giving to those in need. Humanitarianism, promoting human welfare and social reform. Karim's generosity extended beyond his school. He would often help a passenger carry heavy bags without asking for extra payment. He would lend his rickshaw to a fellow driver whose own vehicle had broken down. He would share his lunch with someone who had none. These small acts built trust and respect within his community. Over time, word of Karim's work began to spread. Journalists wrote articles about the rickshaw driver who built a school. Local television featured short interviews. NGOs invited him to speak at events. But even as his story reached a wider audience, Karim's approach did not change. He still lived simply. He still worked his rickshaw. And he still walked into his school each week with the same humble smile. In English, there is an expression, you make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give. Karim's life is the perfect embodiment of this truth. His daily rides provided the means to survive, but his generosity gave his life its deeper purpose. Generosity also has a multiplying effect. When one person gives, others are encouraged to give as well. In Karim's case, his generosity created a network of small but steady contributions from neighbors, former students, and even strangers who heard his story. This network helped the school weather difficult times, such as during floods or economic downturns, when attendance dropped and resources were scarce. Through all of this, Karim never saw himself as a hero. When asked why he built the school, he would simply say, because education is life. If we have it, we must share it. His words remind us that generosity is not an optional extra. It is a responsibility we carry toward one another. Community. If education was the seed and generosity was the water, then community was the soil that allowed Abdul Karim's school to grow. From the very beginning, Karim understood that a school could not survive on one man's effort alone. It needed the involvement, support, and participation of the people around it. And slowly, the school became not just his project, but a shared achievement, something the entire neighborhood could take pride in. Community is a powerful word in English. It means more than just a group of people living in the same place. It carries ideas of connection, belonging, cooperation, and shared responsibility. To describe Karim's story, we need words like collective effort, when people work together toward a common goal. Grassroots movement, change that begins with ordinary people, not with leaders or governments. Neighborhood solidarity, unity among local residents to face challenges together. Civic participation, involvement of citizens in activities that improve society. At first, some neighbors were skeptical. They wondered how a man with so little could possibly sustain a school. But as weeks turned into months and children kept showing up, curiosity turned into respect. Parents began volunteering to supervise the younger students. Shopkeepers donated scrap paper that could be used for writing practice. A retired teacher offered to give free lessons twice a week. These were small gestures, but together they formed a strong foundation. Soon, the school was no longer just a place where children learned. It became a gathering spot for the whole community. On weekends, families gathered there to discuss local issues: how to improve sanitation, how to repair broken roads, how to support families in crisis. The word multi-purpose space became important. The school served as both a classroom and a community center. Karim also encouraged parents to be part of the learning process. He held informal meetings where he explained what the children were studying, why homework mattered, and how parents could help, even if they themselves could not read or write. In English, we call this parental engagement, involving parents in their children's education to strengthen results. For many parents, this was the first time they felt connected to their child's schooling. The community's role grew in unexpected ways. When the roof of the classroom began to leak during monsoon season, it was not just Karim who tried to fix it. Neighbors came with bamboo poles, tin sheets, and ropes. They repaired it together, laughing and working side by side. This was communal labor, or what some cultures call volunteer work parties, everyone contributing their effort for a shared benefit. As the years passed, the school became a symbol of pride. It represented what the community could achieve through cooperation. Children who once wandered aimlessly in the streets were now reading poems, solving sums, and even performing plays for local festivals. Their parents beamed with pride. This transformation strengthened the community's identity. English vocabulary gives us many useful words for describing this kind of connection: cohesion, the act of sticking together; mutual support, helping one another in times of need; civic pride, the satisfaction of contributing to one's town or neighborhood; social fabric, the network of relationships that hold a society together. Karim's school became woven into the social fabric of the area. It was not only about academics, it was about belonging. Festivals were celebrated there, neighbors shared meals there, and during emergencies, the school even served as a shelter. Another important aspect of community was the role of former students. As children grew older and graduated, many returned to help. Some became tutors for younger students. Others helped clean and paint the school. One student, who later trained as a nurse, gave free health workshops for the children and their families. This cycle of giving back is often called community reinvestment, the idea that those who benefit from a community later contribute to it. Karim also believed in teaching students the value of community. He organized projects like planting trees along the road, cleaning up litter, or helping elderly neighbors with chores. These activities taught students words like responsibility, teamwork, and service, not just as vocabulary, but as lived experiences. In English, there is a phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child." This idea was visible in Kareem's neighborhood. The school became the village's heart, and every child's success felt like a shared victory. Community involvement also gave the school resilience. There were times when money was scarce, when floods damaged buildings, or when political unrest disrupted daily life. But because the school belonged to everyone, people always came together to rebuild, to donate, to protect. This is called collective resilience, the ability of a group to recover from difficulties through unity and cooperation. Over time, the story of Kareem's school spread beyond the neighborhood. Visitors from nearby towns came to see it, curious about how one man's initiative had blossomed into a community institution. Some of them returned home inspired, starting small learning groups of their own. This is the power of community. It is not limited by geography. It spreads through example, through inspiration, through connection. Today, if you walk past Kareem's school, you will not just see children studying. You will see parents gathered in discussion. You will see neighbors repairing fences. You will hear laughter, debate, storytelling, and song. You will see community in action. Words like unity, collaboration, engagement, and togetherness all describe what happens there. But perhaps the most powerful word is hope, because when a community comes together around education, it creates hope not only for today, but for generations to come. As our story comes to an end, let us pause and reflect on what we have learned from Abdul Kareem, the rickshaw driver who built a school with his salary. His journey is not only about bricks, benches, and blackboards. It is about the deeper values of education, generosity, and community. It is about showing that one person's determination can spark a movement that touches many lives. We began with the idea of education, the belief that knowledge is the foundation of opportunity. Kareem's school proved that even the humblest space with the simplest materials can open doors for children who might otherwise remain shut out of learning. Through reading, writing, and arithmetic, his students gained not only skills but also confidence and ambition. Education gave them the power to dream beyond their circumstances. We then explored the theme of generosity, the kind of giving that comes not from abundance, but from sacrifice. Kareem's story reminds us that generosity is not about how much money you have. It is about the willingness to share what little you do have. His selflessness inspired others, showing that kindness is contagious. Each small contribution, whether a bag of rice, a few hours of teaching, or a repaired roof, became part of a larger miracle. Finally, we turned to community, the collective force that transformed one man's vision into a shared reality. Kareem's school became a hub of connection, a place where neighbors gathered, where children learned values alongside lessons, and where pride grew stronger with every success. The community's unity turned fragility into resilience, proving the old saying, "Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much." In English, we often use the word legacy to describe what someone leaves behind, not just in material wealth, but in the lives they touch. Abdul Kareem's legacy is not measured in bank accounts or property deeds. It is measured in the laughter of children reciting poems, in the pride of parents watching their sons and daughters succeed, and in the strength of a community that discovered what it could achieve when it stood together. His story also gives us powerful vocabulary to carry forward: sacrifice, kindness, unity, resilience, opportunity, service, and hope. These are not just words to memorize, they are words to live by. So, what lesson can we take with us today? Perhaps it is this: that change does not always begin with governments or billionaires or international organizations. Sometimes it begins with a single person pedaling a rickshaw through the streets of Bangladesh, holding a vision bigger than himself. It begins with one act of courage, one act of generosity, one classroom where a child learns to write their name for the first time. As you listen to this story, ask yourself, what can I give? How can I support education, generosity, or community in my own world? You may not build a school, but you can mentor, you can donate, you can share knowledge, you can volunteer. Like Kareem, you can take what little you have and turn it into something that changes lives. And so, we close this tale with one final English phrase. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. Abdul Karim's life was a shining example of this truth. His light spread from child to child, from family to family, until it illuminated an entire community. And now, through stories like this, his flame travels far beyond Bangladesh, into our hearts, our classrooms, and our imaginations.